Welcome to your online classroom. I'm Mrs. Cummings, and today we're going to be diving into the exciting world of fractions, leaving our familiar world of whole numbers behind. But don't worry, it's going to be a lot of fun.
These are fractional bars. We use them to show what fractions look like. Before we begin, I want to go over some unfamiliar vocabulary with everyone that requires a lot of f's, so warm your mouth up. Let's start with a whole. Next are 2 halves. We have 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, 8/8, 10/10, and 12/12. All these are what we call fractional parts, or the name of the fraction being used. I invite you now to pause this video and explore using your own fractional bars. Become familiar with the name of fractions and how many of each fraction bar are needed to make a whole. But why do we write fractions the way we do? Here we have a whole and 1/3. This is how we write 1/3. The top number is what we call the numerator, and it's much different than the lower number, or the denominator, because they tell us much different things. The numerator tells us the parts we have, while the denominator tells us the parts we need to get to a whole.
Here we have the fraction 1/3. The numerator is 1, and the denominator is 3. But how do we know that? Well, if I were to take 1/3, add another third, and one more third, it would equal a whole. So the denominator tells me how many I need in order to make a whole. Let's try another fraction, like 1/10. How many parts do we have according to the numerator? Yeah, that's right, 1. But what about the denominator? Well, we already have 1/10. Now we have 2/10, 3, 4, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and 10/10. We were able to see how many parts we needed to get to a whole just by looking at the denominator, but using the fractional bars, we get a better understanding of what it looks like. Now, I've been spending some time working with the fractional bars, and I've been noticing that many of the fraction bars are equivalent or can be broken up into different fractions, while at the same time taking up the same amount of space.
Don't believe me? I'll prove it to you. We know that 2 halves are equal to a whole. But what are some other fractions that are equivalent to 1/2? Let's experiment. Let's try 1/5. It looks like 3/5 is too large and 2/5 is too small. What about 1/4? It looks like 1/4 is about half of a half. It is equivalent because 2/4 take up the same amount of space as 1/2. 1/8? Well, 1/8 looks like it's half of 1/4. But how many eighths do we need to be equivalent to 1/2? 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, and 4/8. We did it again. 5/10 is equivalent to 4/8, 2/4, and 1/2 because they take up the same amount of space. Okay, pause the video. You guys are pros by now, so I want you to set up your own fractional bars using 1/12. Set them up, count them, and write down the fraction that is equivalent to 1/2. Go ahead. I'll wait here. I have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now I know that 6/12 is equivalent to 5/10, 4/8, 2/4, and 1/2. Awesome. Okay, one more. Pause the video and take out your 1/6 bar. Observe it. Look how long it is. Now, without putting it next to the half, I want you to predict how many you're going to need in order to take up the same amount of space as 1/2. Okay, let's try it together. We have 1/6, 2/6, that's still too small. If we put one more 6, it does look equivalent. So that tells us that 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2, 2/4, 4/8, 5/10, and 6/12. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and make sure if you have any questions, you let me know. Tune in next time when we learn how to multiply and divide fractions. See you then!